I'm going to say I'm here as not only a former sheriff, a retired Army officer, served our country in Iraq, also was a commanding officer in Yuma to help secure that portion of the border. I'm here as a friend of both Steve and Mary Ann, and gentleman asked me earlier, are you still the sheriff? I said, no. I said, now I hold the most important office in the land, and it's that of private citizen, a U.S. citizen. And it has to mean something, and that's the one thing I wanted to say, is that we're on American soil, and yet it doesn't seem that we're prioritized. Everybody keeps talking about the extreme radical folks, anybody who has a broken story of those from Honduras or Guatemala or El Salvador coming up, and they may have legitimate concerns, legitimate issues. Yet that doesn't mean that they have a right just to come into our country and to break our laws. I've been a cop for 15 years. Every citizen has to follow the laws. How did we end up in this place that citizens only follow laws and people from foreign countries who disrespect America, break our laws, somehow are rewarded? And that's the country we live in now, and we're trying to turn that around with leaders like our President Trump, and leaders like us. Every one of us is a leader. And we have to, as a citizen, we have a responsibility to fight for our republic, to fight for our citizenship, and that it means something. And that we have to stand and fight for it. And that's what we're talking about here today. There's 22 million illegals here in the United States today. That study's put out by Yale, and that's enough. That's far too many. And what I'm saying is not one more illegal. There shouldn't be one more illegal. And the reason why is it doesn't defy or betray the proud history of America. We still are the beacon of hope and of welcoming immigrants, legal immigrants, right?
Yep.
And that's where we have 1 million legal immigrants this past year. We had 1 million legal immigrants the year before and every year prior to that. That's more than any nation in the world. We are the most generous, the most compassionate nation in the world, and yet we have people trying to shout us down, us patriotic citizens of our country, telling us that somehow we're not compassionate, telling us we're not welcoming, we're not the Statue of Liberty, and I reject that. And we all should reject that because it's a complete lie. We're standing for the rule of law, we're standing for secure borders, we're standing for Grant, we're standing for Brandon and their lives and what they stood for. Their lives were taken from them and from their families. Who's going to remember them? Every one of us will. And we'll carry that. These statistics, I can tell you that illegals that come across the country, when I mentioned 1 million legal immigrants, these are people who were invited here, who waited years and years. Some spent tens of thousands of dollars to come here the right way. And then all of a sudden we now have 400, 500, 600,000 a year right now that are breaking into our country. Border Patrol and our own government says that there's many multiples of that number that truly come into America. So now we're talking potentially millions of people every year to add on top of the 22 million that are already burdening our country. And that's where we say we've had enough. We've had it up to here, and we're standing up for our country and for our republic. And so that's what we're here for. You. We're here to say you're not alone. We're here to say stop the violence. The violence is perpetuated against our citizens by a lot of these criminal illegals. I was telling a friend I was on with CNN a couple weeks ago with Anderson Cooper, and people usually say boo to CNN. The reason why I went on there is so they hear the truth. And we talked about, I was on with Anderson Cooper and this guy Van Jones, if you know who he is. And he was talking about compassion and all these things, and how we need to let these people, these 14,000 in the caravan, into the United States. I said, wait a minute. I said, what about Chicago? What about all these urban centers? I said, and Van happens to be black. I said, in these black neighborhoods. I said, where the gang violence and the shootings, there's 80, 100 shootings in a weekend in some of these neighborhoods in Chicago. 12, 15 people killed in a weekend. I said, the crime statistics is far worse there than it is in El Salvador or Honduras or Guatemala or any of these places in a lot of respects. I said, where's their asylum? Where do they seek refuge? And they're our citizens. So it's time that we put America, our citizens, and our country first. And that's what I'm here to say, that I'm here to put America first.
Yes.
And to secure our border.
Yes.
So thank you.